Here at News BV, follow us on Instagram. Eva Cassidy's velvety voice makes the classic Autumn Leaves feel even more autumnal.
The falling leaves drift by my window. The falling leaves of red and gold.
Today marked 25 years since the passing of the woman who, sadly, only became famous after her death. Joining me at the table is her biographer and co-founder of the world's only Eva Cassidy fan club, music journalist Johan Bakker. Johan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When you hear this Autumn Leaves, what happens to you?
All sorts of things. I've just seen the footage, and I know this recording is from 1996. So it was the same year she passed away. It was a recording at Blues Alley, the jazz cafe in Washington, D.C., where she was playing. She recorded an album, and one of the sad things about that album, Life at Blues Alley, is that they didn't include most of the songs Eva played that evening on the album because she didn't think she was good enough that night.
But that's all about her, and we'll talk about that in detail. But I'm also curious as to why it affects you so much. What is it?
It's that voice, and you can tell from her voice that she means it. She takes things to heart. She really does see the autumn leaves falling. And then she turns that into this version of the song, and you realize she's genuinely sad about those autumn leaves falling. She also suffered from seasonal affective disorder, and she saw it all coming, and those are just the sort of things that make you think, that's spot on. When you hear her sing, you think, yes, she was genuinely concerned about the things around her.
A lovely example, because she actually always sang covers, is this very well-known song.
You remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold.
Fields of Gold by Sting is a lovely song in its own right, but when she sings it, it's immediately in a league of its own, isn't it?
It's very different from the original version. That was also the strength of her covers. She never just imitated someone else, because she made something different of it. The strongest example of that is probably Over the Rainbow, because there's a huge leap in it. For the experts, an octave leap, and she simply leaves that out. So she just sings the same note twice. She adapted the songs to suit her, and in many cases she improved them too. Sting once remarked that he prefers Eva's version to his own. The question is whether he's just saying that because he's a very nice guy.
It's simply true.
It's turned into a completely different song. They're both very beautiful.
But you're the only one who wrote a biography about her. And what's more, it is an award-winning biography. Eva Cassidy died of cancer at the age of 33. Was there more tragedy in her life?
Yes. The tragedy actually began quite early on, because she was bullied at school, and that was also the reason she became rather withdrawn during her secondary school years. She would stay in her room for hours on end. Her parents hardly ever saw her. But that in turn led to her immersing herself deeply in music, all kinds of music. She loved jazz, folk, gospel, you name it, and she listened to all those great singers, Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald, and many more, and she would try to imitate them. So by withdrawing into her room on her own, which in itself is rather sad, but we do have all those beautiful songs to thank for that.
Of course, you knew that beautiful voice, that golden voice, and what you say about her interpretation is remarkable. But why did you think, yes, but this life story needs to be told too? I'm going to write a book about it.
Well, unfortunately, there are many singers who die at a young age. And that often has to do with a miserable life, in the sense that they abuse all sorts of substances. But with Eva Cassidy, it was a completely different story. She died of cancer, which is sad enough, but even sadder is that she was never really famous. That she didn't experience that during her lifetime. In that respect, you can compare her story to that of Vincent van Gogh, who also created the most beautiful paintings and knew himself that they were special, yet never received the recognition for them. She probably knew very well too that what she created was indeed, as you put it, in a league of its own. But she was never able to reap the rewards of it.
Why not? How did it come about that, even though we already had this record, she didn't receive that recognition? Why did nobody see that this was indeed so extraordinary?
Well, people often did see it. To give just one example, the president of Blue Note, surely one of the most important record labels, traveled to Washington, D.C. to see her perform. He found Eva Cassidy so special that he actually offered her a contract on the spot. She had to think for a moment and said, "Blue Note, isn't that a jazz label?" "Yes, basically, it is a jazz label." "Well, I don't feel like singing nothing but jazz." A major label like that, one everyone would kill to get signed to, and she says, "No thanks."
Yes, that's unbelievable. Because it wasn't just jazz she also sang folk and blues. And you'd also like us to play something from the album Nightbird, because she was also very good at up-tempo songs. Take Me to the River.
Won't you take me to the river? Wash me down. Take me to the river. Put my feet back on the ground. Yeah.
That album Nightbird sounds good again. I played it again yesterday. A beautiful album. You wanted to add something extra about that. You just started. When was this recorded?
This is indeed from the same concert, Life at Blues Alley. That was on 2nd and the 3rd of January 1996, and that was the album Eva didn't want released. At most, 3 or 4 of those tracks eventually appeared on the album Live at Blues Alley. The rest were older recordings they tacked on. And then, 20 years after she'd passed away, the record company decided, let's go ahead and release that album after all. So that's Nightbird. And to my utter amazement, it's simply 2 CDs that sound perfect from the first minute to the last.
Why didn't she think it was perfect?
It was the recording from the final night, because the recordings on the first night had gone wrong, which was also quite tragic. But the second night was a one-off performance, and it's just like in football. It had to go right first time, because the last chance is the only chance. It turned out she'd caught a cold the night before, so she thought her voice was too hoarse. Her voice wasn't what her fans could expect, so she felt it wasn't good enough to release.
But fortunately, it was released, and it's beautiful.
Yes, because Eva Cassidy with a cold is still better than any healthy singer.
Did she really have a cold? Because you also said she suffered a lot from stage fright. Where did that come from?
Well, that stage fright probably stems from the insecurity she developed in her childhood due to bullying and the like. But she was also a bit of a perfectionist. Even when everyone told her she was fantastic, she always knew deep down that something wasn't quite right, and that really held her back. That was also the reason she actually didn't want to become famous. So in that respect, it's perhaps not that tragic after all. That's what her friends say too, actually. This is what Eva would have wanted, because now others are speaking for her. They can praise her to the skies. Meanwhile, she's sung her songs, we already have them, and all we need to do is put them on a CD.
Yes, we do indeed have the songs, and you'd also like to play something from I Know You by Heart, because there's a story behind that.
You left in autumn. The leaves were turning. I walked down roads of orange and gold.
Why is this song special to you?
Well, this was one of the last things she recorded. When the violin part started, that's her brother Dan, and he went to see his sister to say goodbye to her. Since he was in the area anyway, he went ahead and recorded that violin part too. And the first line of this song is, "You left in autumn." And as it turned out, that's exactly how it happened. You could say she did indeed leave this world in the autumn, and there are also lines in it that are simply very moving in light of the fact that she has passed away, such as, "I still hear your voice every day."
Yes, that's just one of those things. We do indeed still hear her voice every day when we listen to her. Are there still singers who listen to her and are influenced by her?
Well, it's well known that at music schools, lots of singers always ask for Eva Cassidy. They want to learn to sing in her style. The only question is, what is that style? Because she could sing in any style. She had a system in her head, and all she had to do was flick a switch to move to a completely different register. She mastered every genre you can think of, except classical. In the popular genres, she simply mastered everything. In that sense, she is a great role model for many singers.
You're full of stories. It's funny that you're the only one with a fan club in the whole world.
I must make a quick point here, because the chairman of the fan club is Anton van Dijken. Credit where credit is due. I did get involved right from the start, because Anton said, "Would you like to address the people at the first meeting? Because you know far more about her than I do."
Humberto Tan is an honorary member. I know that for a fact because he's a big fan too. We're going to play her version of What a Wonderful World, and you've got a story to tell about that one as well.
What a Wonderful World was the last song she sang in public. About 2 months before her death, her friends organized a charity concert. Although she was insured, medical costs in America are quite high, and insurance is almost never enough. Her friends wanted to organize this concert, the proceeds of which would go towards her medical expenses. The question was whether she would even be able to attend. Not only did she come, she also made her way onto the stage. She walked with a walking frame, but she managed to get up there. She was even able to say a few words. She also played a specially adapted guitar because she was already so weak. And then she sang What a Wonderful World for the whole audience, which is remarkable in itself. You know you're dying. And yet you sing, What a Wonderful World.
Yes, well, let's listen to it. Johan Bakker, thank you for your wonderful stories. You're full of them. Eva Cassidy's biography is still available, so do take a look at evacasidyfanclub.nl, and we're going to listen to What a Wonderful World.
I see trees that are green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world.